Day, everyone. My name is Sarah. Welcome to the fourth episode of the Lunch Hour with Peace. This Lunch and Learn series is hosted by the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center's Prevention and Training Branch, where we chat and learn with prevention champions, hear about available resources in our community, and connect with us at Peace. To learn more about our branch, the free trainings we offer, and the upcoming episodes in our series, please visit peaceguam.org and press subscribe on the top right of the homepage, or follow us on Instagram. Our handle is at peace.guam. Today is January 20th. We are 3 weeks post 2020, also known as the year when the world took a long testing unwanted pause. It was anything but normal. I think we can all attest to that. So many of us lost our jobs, our holiday plans, our communication with families and support systems. Some of us even saw our friends or families battle with COVID 19, and even worse, some of us couldn't reach out to them the way we would have. We witnessed racism and political unrest. I think, in one word, 2020 was chaos. Needless to say, we are ready to move forward, and I'm borrowing this phrase from one of my favorite podcasters, Nora McInerney, who in her TED Talk about grief suggested that instead of moving on, we move forward with these experiences that brought us so much grief and sorrow and pain and light. Today, our topic will revolve around how we can truly do that. In spite of the chaos that 2020 brought to all of us, how can we build resilience within our mind, our body, and our spirit to truly thrive from 2020 and reclaim 2021? But before anything else, here are some reminders. First, this webinar is being recorded. A copy can be accessed later on our Facebook through at GBHWC. The recorded session is scheduled to run for an hour since this is the lunch hour, but we're also open to stay on for a little longer. Thank you to our guest speakers. Past 1 p.m. to address any pressing questions or concerns from the audience. Second, all participants are muted throughout the session. You may ask your questions for our speakers or any of the Peace staff using the Q&A section located in the bottom of your screen. Christiana and other Peace staff will be monitoring those Q&A submissions. Say hi, Christiana, very quickly. There. Finally,
Hello.
some concept. Hi, Christiana, and other Peace staff members who are just on the sidelines. Finally, some concepts discussed in today's topic may trigger discomfort or negative feelings from past traumatic experiences. Please know that you're not alone. If you're looking for one-on-one support, we have staff on standby that you can message privately via the chat box. Just look for the Keep Me Safe, or you can contact directly Christiana Whitman or Focus on Life Guam, and those messages to that user will be monitored by our staff. If you're not comfortable reaching out to our staff, the Guam Behavioral Health Crisis Hotline at 647-8833 or 647-8834 are also available. Another resource that you can call is the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, who we are now a proud network member of. The number is 1-800-273-TALK or 1-800-273-8255. Now I want to start off by getting to know our invited guests. I'm going to ask for you to introduce yourself by sharing first your name, second, the organization you represent, and then third and most importantly, share us at least one New Year's resolution that you've set for yourself. Marissa is in the first box on my Zoom window, so I'm going to go first with you, and then you can choose the next person to go.
Thank you, Sarah. Day. My name is Marissa Again. I'm representing the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center. I am currently the program manager for the Healing Hearts Crisis Center, and I'm also a licensed professional counselor. So thank you for this opportunity. When we go into 2021, after coming through 2020, and you think about resolutions, it's really different because our perspective is so different than what it would have been a year ago. As I was ending the year and coming into this year, I was thinking, what could I do? What could I resolve to do that would be different? That would be something, truly new. My life is pretty stable and pretty routine. So nothing really creative came to me, but spending so much time with my family last year really became really the highlight of everything. So I think that my number one resolution going into 2021 is to maintain those communications. And especially, I have 4 kids. So, one of my number one resolutions was to be able to spend some one-on-one time with each of them individually, instead of just as a group, just to kind of foster those relationships. And I will go ahead and pick on Jessie.
Hi, Hafaday, everybody. My name is Jesse Rosario. I am the owner and nutrition professional with the Boca Box. We are Guam's first nutritionally sound meal prep service that is focused on helping people stay and get healthy by providing pre-prepped meals. My 2021 resolution was, the first one for me was to spend less money on buying coffee every day. But I guess my big resolution has been kind of like Marissa. I took away some good points from the past year being in the pandemic and everything. And if there's one thing that I can highlight is that I have spent more time with my family than ever before, and I loved it. And I got my kids into working out, got my wife back into working out. She just gave birth a year ago. I have 3 kids, 15, 13, and a 1-year-old now. So my focus has really been on trying to get them to be physically active and eat healthier this year. And I think we'll get into why that is so important, but just keeping not only myself, but my family healthy in all aspects. And Tag, you're it, Pastor.
I hear a theme here. I'm Pastor Brad Dunnigan, married to a wonderful wife of 30 plus years, Jessica. She helps me co-labor at a local fellowship that we launched back in 2016, Every Nation Church Guam, really where we serve people and connect them with what I call God's intention, which is really ultimately our purpose, the purpose of why we are on earth, in the middle of Oceania, on this amazing island that we all come to love and know as Guam, and why specifically in this time. And as we've looked at this past year and tried to figure out what are we doing in this moment, and what does this moment need us to be so that we can have the greatest contribution to our community and our family and our loved ones. It's realizing that we necessitate internally an evaluation and in some cases a fortification of our foundations. And that's one of the things that we've transitioned into this year with, is as a movement, but also as individuals within our ministry movement, is reestablishing that foundation. Looking at where has it been neglected and therefore deteriorated, and then requires a little bit of a DIY improvement. Other places, where is it good? We laid a good foundation, but it's not very thick, and where we thought we had a storm-proof life, we've been rocked fairly well. And now how do we collectively build some depth to that so that we have the ability to create a legacy or leave something significant and positive behind long after we go, if we're given that opportunity.
Thank you for sharing that. I think those are like really great resolutions, and you already spoke towards how you've come about those resolutions. So the next question was actually going to be pertaining to that. We all had the common experience of the global pandemic, but how we took it or how we experienced it are very unique. So I wanted to know, like, how were your experiences in 2020? Can you describe a little more of that? And how did that experience, or how did that overall, perspective change you and help you in identifying and pursuing the resolutions that you've just mentioned? Anybody can go first.
Okay, I'll go. 2020 was a roller coaster for me, and I think that's true for everybody out there. I got early last year, I got sick, and I don't know if it was COVID. I got tested, but at that time the tests weren't even on Guam. I was sick for about 3 weeks. I had pneumonia. I had everything that was COVID without the doctors telling me it was COVID. Had a hard time breathing and all of that. But it's kind of shaped the way I took my experiences after that, because no matter, I kind of think of myself as relatively healthy. I try to eat right all the time. I exercise. And as much as I tried to stay healthy, I still got sick. And, like you were saying in the beginning, we have to figure out how to move forward with what we're living in right now. And I always like to tell my family and everyone that I talk to that we cannot control COVID. We can't control the outside environment. All that we can control is what's within our power. And that is how we take care of our health, what we put into our mouth, how we take care of our spiritual well-beings, and I take care of my family. And for me, my resolution for a long time has always been very selfish, if that kind of makes sense, because the resolution was mine and I made it for myself. And a lot of times it was, I wanted to get healthier, or I wanted to do this, or I wanted to do that, or I wanted to save money. But the past year has really showed me that it's not just about me anymore. It's about my family. And that's what it should be, right? About my family and about the community. So my goals for this year has, again, like I said, been focusing on my family, but most importantly, how can I give back to the community within my business? I think that I'm very blessed that I still have a business to run. We were shut down for weeks in the first lockdown, and the second lockdown shut down a couple weeks. And I saw a lot of my friends and other businesses that had to go out of business. And luckily, I am still here, and I'm providing a service to the community. And I am now more than ever focused on trying to help our community stay healthy, because that's what we need to do moving forward, is take care of our health, take care of our family, and again, just move forward like that.
"2020 for me was, just like everybody else. It was, of course, it was a roller coaster. I had a baby in March, right before the first lockdown. And so I was already intending to stay home for a little bit, but just to have, in my mind, that was, okay, me, my husband, and the baby, stay home and get to know her and, transition and all of that. But then all of a sudden, my entire family was home. So it was me and my husband and 4 children, and nobody was going to school. And we were trying to have to manage all of that, and then trying to work from home. So, in the midst of all of that, I've always been the type of person who loves to go to work. Work is my escape, right? Because, hello, my household is busy. So work has always been my escape. Having to transition and having to manage all of that and balance all of that really was kind of an eye-opener for me. And then, it becomes difficult at first, and then you kind of surrender, right? We surrender. So we surrender, and then we say, let's just try to embrace this experience for what it is and take the best of it and just work together to the challenges. And, so by the grace of God, we were able to stay home the whole year. And even up until this year, the kids are now only transitioning back. It's a little bit more quiet. It's a little bit more peaceful. And now I kind of miss it, because now it's like, wow, there's really so much quiet and so much space. And then so you kind of miss the chaos that has become your normal. But I think it just puts into perspective our priorities and the things that we thought were our escape before, and how those things kind of can evolve, as a result of something that was globally affecting everyone.
I think there's a real powerful observations that both Jesse and Merce made. And I think one of the things that I self-discovered coming through this was the affirmation that we've heard in many testimonies and stories about people who have been through extenuating circumstances in their lives. And that's really how resilient and adaptive we are as human beings. But also when we find, I think, ourselves in crisis or unique situations, that we are forced to kind of recalibrate and reassess on first things first. And for myself personally, both experientially, but also through my observations of friends and family members on island and around the world, actually, was the putting of first things first. Is that the first thing that most people put forth was their family. The intentionality of getting back around the dinner table. When I came to Guam for the first time back in 1987, when I was just a young airman in the Navy doing search and rescue here, what I was most struck by was this unique, I'm going to use the term agrarian multi-generational connection that I observed when I went to my first several fiestas, where you had generations of family intentionally gathering together and just celebrating life at that point, which obviously was the patron saints of the island, which was just a wonderful thing to gather around and to celebrate community, but also reinforce the value of family. And I think that this has given us that opportunity, something that really made a very indelible mark on my heart so many decades ago, is to see us come back to that place where family is now first, God first and family right after that, where we've had the opportunity to look and self-evaluate faith. Okay, where is God in this? And the next question I think that we needed to learn to re-ask ourselves is, what does he want to be to us in this moment? And in being that to us in this moment, what does he want us to be, firstly to our immediate family, and then to our extended family, and then our friends within the community, so that we can be those people that add value and reinforce the value and the premium that we put on these relationships of being so closely situated with each other on an island. But somehow before this time last year, we found ourselves so busy and separated. It actually took a lot of effort at times to make even just sincere family connections.
I agree. I mean, personally, that's something that I'm grateful for, right? Like, it's not every day that we see ourselves. Oh, well, actually, like, it's really is the island spirit where we always see ourselves having a strong support system. And it's so amazing how we hear people saying, like Jesse mentioned, about how like it's really beyond myself, like it's about my family, it's about my community. That's not normal for everyone, right? So to be surrounded by people with perspectives like that is a blessing. And that's really personally how I also survived 2020 and how moving forward with 2021. You're all sort of service providers. You serve people or communities in your own way. Have you seen any shift between perspectives of New Year's resolutions before 2020 and before COVID hit to now that we're moving to 2021? Like, what's the temperature of the community that you serve? I'll start with Marissa.
Sure. In talking with my clients who are reflecting upon just how much their life changed last year, some of the things that have struck me with some of their resolutions are, somebody said, I just resolved to be more stable within myself so that I can be the support for my family and my community. So in the midst of all of the turmoil, that self-perseverance and that resilience and that strength becomes kind of the cornerstone to being able to even be anything for anybody else, right? So I think that's, of all the ones that I've heard this year so far, that's been the one that struck me the most.
I'm not sure who I was talking to that reminded me of that. Like, they were saying that, like, I'm just more thankful now. And that's my resolution. I'll be more thankful because we actually survived and we're living. That's like something not our 2018 or 2019 version of us would have thought of. How about you, Jesse or Pastor? Like, have you seen any changes between like the perspectives of people when they're talking about moving into the new year? Those are for you.
I think for me, right, I'm more health oriented, right? Within my business, we're very nutrition and physical activity. I guess promoting that kind of healthy lifestyle. I have seen the community become highly active. Everyone's on their bikes, everybody's running every single day within my business. And I think the reason why we're still in business is because people see the importance of how food affects the body and that they need to stay healthy. Food is something that not only physically helps the body, but mentally helps the body as well. And just getting out to do some physical activity, that does wonders. In 2020, like I said, it was a roller coaster for me personally. It was mentally exhausting during the first lockdown. I was like, okay, I'm gonna get healthy. I'm gonna be home. I'm gonna work out, and I'm gonna get gym equipment and do things at my house since I can't go anywhere. But I lasted 1 week, and then I fell into the slump of I'm just gonna watch TV with my kids. I'm going to binge on all the food that I have. And at that time, fresh produce was kind of scarce. And we were just living off of food with a lot of preservatives and food that we could get our hands on. And the stories were crazy. So I didn't want to have to go out and buy any food. So we just got whatever, like typhoon season, just get whatever we can. And I had to really dig deep and remind myself that it was a mental struggle. And I not only had to just focus on me, my kids were struggling too. My wife was struggling. She was going through a postpartum, and we had to get through all of it together. And I think that getting out of the house, looking at ways to exercise safely within the community, looking at ways where we can buy food, order food that was still safe for us, that was a big challenge. It took some time to get used to, but fixing our nutrition, fixing our physical health, and then just seeing the rest of the community kind of tag on to that and be doing that was very uplifting for me, just to see that I wasn't the only one going through it. There was a bunch of people.
Thank you. I hope everything is well with your wife. Congratulations, by the way, to Marissa and Jesse for the new babies in your family. And thank you for sharing that. Sorry, Pastor.
No, that's quite all right. That's a very important point. I was actually thinking of the same thing, just the challenge and the complexity of bringing new life into this world, and still when we're trying to grapple and look for tangible handholds as even we ourselves are navigating it. My hat's off to both of you and your families for just being able to successfully navigate that. I think something Jesse said was real important too, was looking at the value of our uptake. Because our uptake changed probably dramatically for so many of us. Where we got our food and what food that we took in because of being on the island here, where we got our nutrition and our supplementation from, where we got our news from, alternate areas and where we got our news from, what we were hearing around us, and really, as human beings, we do like a certain amount of consistency and rhythm in our lives. We're kind of engineered for that in a sense, but we like the outcome of change, but we don't like the process of change. And I think that was one of the things that I think we had to grapple with the most, especially in my family level, was the inconsistencies, the gross inconsistencies. Sometimes even day to day, this was okay, tomorrow no, and no, it's completely wrong. And then the next day, okay, yeah, we think it's all right again. It's like, okay, what happened in the last 48 to 72 hours that changed this to that, and from that back to this, or something whole brand new that just constantly keeping us on our heels, and realizing that at least on our side, the one person that we did have control of was self. And so it kind of set us on this journey of becoming a better me or a better us. How do we become a better me so I can be a better husband? How can we become a better us so that we can be a better marriage unit? And then see that propagating to our family as we gathered around the table. We did life coming back to a place, us being in our 50s already, our 2 adult children, and now some grandchildren. We all find ourselves around the dinner table at night, and it's resetting certain things that really required resetting, because in the busyness we become casual or overly familiar with that, but also looking at our devotional life, realizing that much like the focus of the sign, that we're not only a body and a soul, but we're also spirit. And when we look at the universality of what I'd call the Catholic faith on island, looking at the universal faith, not necessarily any denomination per se. It's that's the ultimate foundation that we're to build on, because it's built on something that isn't only present, but it's also eternal. And I love what 1 Corinthians, we do a lot of what I call foundations training and teaching as part of our method of discipleship, or just teaching people the ways in the Word of God. And in 1 Corinthians 3, especially specifically verses 12 through 17, I love the way it says it in one of the translations called The Message, and it kind of puts things in the now speak. And it has this very architectural sense to it, like what we see happening now as building starting to take place. And it's that Paul came in as a master builder, and he was given the blueprints of how to build build lives according to God's plan, and he made a very intentional effort to build people's lives according to God's plan. And Apollos came in, one of his best friends and fellow co-laborers, and did his role and part in that, again according to those plans. But as they taught other people to take this generationally or to create that legacy, the warning came out is that there will be a time in all of our lives where the master inspector, being God the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, come in and reevaluate everything that we've built. And if we built it on truth, if we built it according to God's plan, it'll stand that fiery test. If it doesn't, it's going to be forced to be demolished. It reminds me of that hotel many decades ago that had to get demolished because it wasn't built according to architectural plan, and therefore it had been deemed unsafe and unusable. And all of our lives are meant to be usable. We're put here as divine workmanship to add something not only natural but also supernatural that has the ability to produce fruit or produce something that will long outlive us. And it's like, okay, if my life is in a place where certain areas look fantastic, but I know I've built to substandard conditions or requirements in maybe an area that I think people are less likely to see, how do I give myself permission to go back and do some renovation in that area? And that was kind of that whole premises of using this opportunity to build a better me, but now also leveraging what I've learned to assist people and to enable them to give themselves permission to build a better them.
That brings me back to what Marissa said earlier of just, like learning to surrender to the whole situation that we cannot control and really just control what we can get a handle of, which is ourselves. Like, I think you mentioned like evolving. If this is a time for growth, then so be it, and learn how to grow into that person that you need to be. Thank you for sharing that. Unfortunately, for others, the chaos that is 2020 has affected them much negatively than many of us here, or most of us here in this chat and this webinar have experienced. And so it's harder for others to move forward based on what they've gone through in 2020. Unfortunately, all of the chaos didn't disappear at the stroke of midnight on January 1st. They're still living through some of those negative experiences up to this date. So it's harder for them to move forward, learn and thrive from 2020 and move forward in 2021. So what would your suggestions be, or your words of wisdom be for these people who are just having a harder time than others to live more positively in 2021?
I guess I'll start. As with anything, we just talked about, the word evolving. Change doesn't come overnight. And I think it's very important to break things down, right? Give yourself some grace, be patient with yourself, and break things down into more sizable portions, right? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, basically. So in order to make great changes, you need to take small steps. Breaking things down into things that you are more likely to be able to achieve and be successful for is helpful, because then you can kind of build upon those accomplishments towards the greater goals, right? So, I'm sure Jesse's going to talk a lot more about that. Like when you're talking about working out and exercising and eating right, or making any kind of lifestyle changes. But even just the way, from the mental health perspective, the way that you see things, right? If you are always looking at things with a negative, if your automatic reaction to things is always negative, then that's how you're going to see everything. But if somebody slights you, or if you're out at the store, for example, and you see somebody that and you wave at them and they don't wave back, right? Really, depending on how you take that is going to affect how you behave after that. If you think to yourself something negative like, man, I must have done something to upset that person must not like me, or that person snubs me, right? That's going to have a negative effect on your thoughts and on your feelings. But if you kind of shift that perspective and think, the other possibilities, maybe they didn't see me, maybe they didn't recognize me, I'm wearing a mask, maybe they have a lot of things going on in their mind that they just didn't kind of connect, then you don't turn that upon yourself, and you're able to continue on with your day without that affecting you. So a lot of times when you're having a hard time with things, just take a moment, pause and try to see if there's another perspective that you can possibly look at the situation with, because that can really affect the way that you think and feel about things.
Okay, I guess I'll go next. I think consistency is key. You know, like Marissa said, the hardest part about doing anything is starting. You know, you have to start it, and if you want to start it, the next thing is then being consistent with that, no matter what it is. And I hope my wife doesn't mind me sharing this, but again, 2020 was hard. We went through some ups and downs. We were in the house with our kids all the time. We got on each other's nerves, and there were points in our marriage that really challenged us, you know. But we had to take a step back, and we had to look at, like what the pastor said, we had to kind of look at what was our weaknesses at that time and then try to fix that. And for us, it wasn't just being together as a family. It was doing things as a family. You know, we would all be in the house, but everybody's on their phones, everybody's watching some different movie. And we figured that, hey, one, we need to do something together. The second thing that we kind of realized was, for us, God was lacking. You know, my wife is very busy. I'm very busy. The kids were busy, and we kind of neglected God in our life. And so we took steps to kind of rectify that. We would read a scripture every morning. We would go through the day thinking about it. And then at dinner time, when we sat down, we'd ask each other, okay, what did this scripture mean for us, and how can we apply it in our life? And that little step in just putting that emphasis into our spiritual well-being, but being consistent with that, it worked wonders for us. Because when we started talking about not only issues that surrounded God and spirituality, but then we started talking about things like current events, what's happening in the US, what's happening with the president, what's happening on Guam, what's happening with the numbers, you know? And it really started to engage my family to talk about the issues that matter to us. My wife and I talked about, how do we make our marriage better? How do we make the kids understand what's going on so that they take an interest in not only being safe for themselves, but, you know, if they go to school, if they go somewhere, how do they make sure that they're safe so that they don't bring anything into the household, you know? So we had to really talk about it, but be consistent with our message. And I like what Marissa said in keeping a very positive outlook on what you're doing. If we go every day, and my wife and I got into situations where we're looking at the numbers for the day and we're like, oh my gosh, our positivity rate is up, let's not do anything, we can't go out. I'm like, no, we have to figure out how to move forward with this. What are we gonna do? If recently we started going to the pool, right? To like the hotel pools. And we got into a situation where there were more people than we wanted to be there. And so instead of saying we can't go to the pool, we just moved to the other side where nobody was, you know? So we took control of that situation. And then when we finally figured out, like, hey man, there's a party, people don't have their masks on, whatever, then we left, you know? But at least we spent time doing something and at least trying to move forward, you know? And everything you take everything in stride. You start one step at a time, but you have to be consistent with what you're doing.
And sometimes just like pausing so that you can give yourself that opportunity to change your perspective and not react too rashly. That helps. Like 5 seconds could make a difference in your reaction or in the behavior that you display. Pastor, how about you?
Oh, this is just so enriching and enjoyable, just listening to the perspectives and the wisdom that's coming through. You know, I think one word that I'm hearing from both Marissa and Jesse is taking control, and part of that is taking back control that we've given others, when we realize that the control or influence that they're exuding over us isn't consistent with our internal constitution, and realizing that we've got a bigger role to play in the outcomes when we take ownership and responsibility back. And that was one of the things I've grappled with. You know, it's my nature is very optimistic and forward thinking, but just because of some adjustments in my life due to maturing, I realized that certain hormone levels started to adjusting, that being complicated, also some military related trauma, that this was both a season of being last year 2020, even going in March, very very high anticipation, but also very gray and exceedingly cloudy on the internal conversation and thoughts, and realizing that I needed to renourish certain things that were responsible for keeping my outlook positive, and for keeping my hope stirred and my outlook very intentionally bright, so that I could not only lead myself but also lead others that others were expecting me to be there to lead them. Brought us into a really unique situation, and I think it was about midsummer that I was reintroduced to a book that had grown a substantial amount of dust on my bookshelf, but it was by Jeff Osborne, The Slight Edge. And it's realizing, much like Marissa had mentioned in one of my favorite examples of eating the elephant, but it's that there are no quantum leaps, but there's little adjustments, little 1% adjustments that we have the opportunity to make every single day, much like Jesse was mentioning, that when we prioritize those, when we decide to make room for them, and maybe we don't see any difference this week or this month or this year, but over the course of time, when those little negative stones start building up, at the end of life's journey, you end up with a quantum return, whether it's positive or negative, and realizing that the sum of the decisions that we decide to start making, if we're not happy with where we're at right now, the great thing is we can look back and assess, but look back through your rear view mirror, not your front, not your front windscreen. Your rear view mirror is only there to do a quick evaluation to make sure that something's not coming up that's going to catch you unexpectedly. But the expectation is to take that and allow yourself to make a necessary adjustments at the heart level, in the attitude and in the mind, and if necessary on our uptake for the sake of our body, so that we can move forward. The other thing is just the value, the now present and future value of spirituality in our life, through a divinely unique and living relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ, and that the role of that church is supposed to be the lighthouse. It's supposed to be the God seasoning in the community. It's supposed to be the beacon of hope in your dark nights, but also the point of memorial when you've lost your way and you need to reflect or recalibrate back. And again, I just remember that wonderful scripture says is that God sees us when we're orphaned and we're separated, and He grabs us and He reconciles us and intentionally plants us in the family. And it's in the context of that community, that first and foremost we see ourselves becoming established in identity, not just the identity of our birth family, but in our heavenly identity, which ultimately leads into our purpose, and then the unique divine purpose that we're to live out here as we start pursuing life in expectation that we'll encounter our destiny. And so I think this is some wonderful nuggets that are coming out as we kind of look at the body, the mind, and the spirit as a whole.
Thank you for sharing that. It actually brings me to another question that I have, which is like, when we do those self-checks or self-assessments to check whether or not we're reaching our benchmarks or reaching our small goals to get to our larger goal, like, can you give me some practical examples of how one person can do that when it comes to like their goals, when it comes to their mental health, their physical nutrition, or their physical strength, and also their spirituality? And you can give me like examples that are hypothetical, or maybe from experience, from what you've experienced personally, or from the clients that you serve.
If I can start this one, because I'm really interested for the feedback and contribution from Jesse and Marissa. But for myself, I've had to this every new experience develops a new groove in the brain, and so I'm currently right now self-investing in a new groove in my brain, and I'm doing something I hate doing. I hate doing, but I'm going to teach myself how to love and appreciate it, and that's to journal and to calendar, so that I can set priorities. And it still has the wrapper on it, so I've had it for a week and haven't barely cracked the spine on it. But today I'm putting ink to paper But within the context of that, and why I picked that specific journal is because it kind of looks at the spectrum. It looks at family goals, relational goals, fitness goals, spiritual goals, social responsibility goals. What do you want to contribute to your environment, and what, to your community, and financial goals. And for me, it kind of hits the broad spectrum. And I needed to start someplace. And I think that's the important thing is just doing something, making a decision to do something different. For me, the other thing I did is I made a decision that I'm going to start waking up at 5 o'clock every morning. I'm going to set my alarm clock, so that when I don't wake up naturally at 5, that I'll wake up at 5. And now that I'm waking up at 5 and I can celebrate, I'm releasing that internal reward by celebrating that I woke up at 5, but I'm still not getting in and doing the tasks that I'm hoping to do at 5. Now it's now taking that next step and beginning to exercise. Okay, what did I plan to do when I wake up at 5? Not just take the dog out. Oh yeah, I meant to sit down and think about my day for a little bit. What was my day, and then to begin to celebrate that. And when I get past that, then the next step. Okay, yeah, that's going to be my time of reading and maybe some meditation and some journaling time, and then just progressively build that internal reward system so that when I do these things, that release of reward that our bodies were divinely designed to give us, to encourage us to pursue worthwhile and significant endeavors, that it's there to continue pushing me forward. So I do it with even more zeal, more passion, and therefore get greater results and have a greater impact on my family, on my marriage, on my relationship, on the people that I engage and care about.
Pastor, we had a question that came up, and I just want to ask it now because it's particular to the item that you shared. Yvonne wanted to ask what kind of journal you're using.
So this is actually Clever Fox, and one of the regrettable things about my maturing is I now suddenly have to use reading glasses after having eagle vision for decades. And when I realized, I opened up one of my old Bibles, and all I saw looked like squiggly lines, only to put my glasses on to discover that there were actually words. I realized I needed to move something larger print, and so that was one of the few journals and calendars that actually are in 8.5 by 11 format.
Thank you. Jesse or Marissa, any practical ways or examples you can share with our audience on self-assessment, self-checks to maintaining one's New Year's resolutions?
I think it all starts with what your goal is. Everything starts with the goal, but whenever somebody comes in and they start asking me, okay, I want to do this, I want to do that, especially if it's weight loss related, right? And health related, I always tell them, you need to be realistic. Yes, you want to drop 20 pounds, but is 20 pounds in a month very realistic for you? Probably not, unless you want to really be strict and hate your life and lose that 20, then yeah. But this is our life now. We have to figure out how to reach our goal, but in phases. I view my fitness, I view my nutrition just the same way I view my life. When you start wanting to lose weight and trying to get healthier, you do certain things and you want to do everything. I want to eat right, but I want to do keto, but I want to exercise and I want to whatever, right? We have to pause, like you said. Pause, take a step back and say, okay, my first step is to maybe just clean up my eating habits. Instead of going out and ordering takeout all the time or fast food, I'm going to make my food, or I'm going to make sure that it's unprocessed. And that's the first step. Then when you kind of get used to that, just like waking up in the morning, right? The hardest part is starting to do that. So it's hard for your body to wake up 5 o'clock every single morning, but about a week or two into it, it happens just like that, And the same thing goes for diet and exercise. You just need to start, have a goal. And once you kind of reach a plateau, then you're like, okay, now I'm ready for the next step. Maybe it's decreasing my caloric content. Maybe it's increasing my activity level. Whatever it is, you have to be realistic with your goal. Once you reach something, take it as a win. I get lots of people that come in and I've been eating right for the first week, and I dropped 5 pounds, but I know it's just water loss. I'm like, no, it's not just water loss. Good that you lost weight, How do you feel? Oh, I feel really great. That's a win. Take every single win and build upon that. You feel great. You wake up better in the morning. That's a win. You sleep better at night because of how you're eating. That's a win. If you wake up in the morning after, exercising the day before, you look in the mirror and you like the way you look just from that one day of exercise, take that as a win and continue with that. Always keep a positive mindset, but always be realistic about what your goal is and reaching that goal.
I guess I'm up. I think it's awesome what Pastor and Jesse said. It makes so much sense, and it's natural. So, obviously we have to start with something that's realistic, right? And one of the hardest parts about picking a resolution or trying something new or trying to commit to something is that it then becomes just another obligation. It then becomes just another task that you have to try to fit in your schedule, that you have to try to make time for, and something you end up feeling like something might have to give, right? So a practical suggestion to that is to layer your intentions and your actions. If you, for example, like Pastor was mentioning, he wants to get up at 5 o'clock every morning and he wants to journal. Well, it sounds like he's doing great with one and maybe not so much with the other yet, right? But once you kind of get that going, like Jesse said, after a week, it's not going to feel like anything. Then maybe you can incorporate that layering. So now that you've done that, you can add in the journaling, even small kinds, just a little bit, just to kind of get that momentum going, right? Using a reward system is also great. As parents, we go back and forth about this all the time, like rewards, punishments, incentives, whatever. But as grown-ups, it can be very effective. So one of my goals, because I have so many children, is I need to get laundry done every single day, right? So I've layered that. I get up in the morning, start my routines, everything like that. The laundry has to go into the washer before I get to make myself a cup of coffee. It's a simple pairing like that just kind of ensures that it gets going. And then, oh my goodness, there's something else that I was going to say about that. Having somebody to help keep you accountable is also good, right? We, oftentimes aren't ever going to be successful in doing something all on our own. And there really is value in having somebody that we trust and that we care about, that's not going to judge you, that's not going to make you feel bad if you slip up, but it's just going to encourage you and make you feel loved, right? So I think those are kind of important when it comes to these kinds of things.
I love those. Thank you for those tips and nuggets. Oh yes, go ahead, Pastor. You have something to add.
No, I just say again, being around two such incredible communicators, it just causes just spontaneous just thought and nuggets just to add into this. Because one of the things that was told to me by a mentor of my wife and I is we want to schedule big things, especially for our resolutions, right? But the challenge is that a lot of things that we schedule, because we schedule so much and we're not used to that much activity, it's very, very challenging. And we tend to look at the negative. We look at the negative, our inability to accomplish things consistently. And one of the things that as we were going through and rediscovering our why, why do we want to do this and pursue certain things, that we evaluate as important, is to schedule for consistency. Don't schedule big, but schedule for consistency. And I love that about the rhythms that Marissa talks about, because I've always go back to that commencement ceremony when the commander from the Navy SEAL teams was talking about the value of making your bed every day, so that you've accomplished something. But it's not just enough to accomplish something, it's to celebrate the accomplishment of that. Little wins add up to tremendous victories, and I think that's what it is. It's learning, it's re-recognizing. And a spiritual mentor of mine told me one time, we all need a Paul and a Barnabas, and the value of each of those two biblical individuals is Paul. Man, Paul was just straight up in your face. We're gonna conquer the world. You better buckle up, Buttercup, because we're in for a ride. But Barnabas was very, very nurturing. He was very edifying, and he could take people that were less desirable, and at the end of his mentoring made them exceedingly valuable. And we see that with Paul and Mark. Paul Paul's like, hey, we're going to go here. And Mark's like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to go with you guys. And Paul's like, well, then get the heck out of here. And Barnabas is like, let me take Mark. We'll hang out for a little bit. But at the end of Paul's days, when he really needed somebody significant around him, he goes, send me Mark. Send me Mark, because I know he's been with Barnabas, and I know the quality and the character of people that Barnabas mentors and disciples. Send him to me because he's of much value to me now. And I think that's kind of that combination of the two, celebrating little victories that make a big difference over the course of our year this year, but also identifying who speaks into you and encourages you. You can always count on to them, not drawing from you like a spiritual vampire, so to speak. You get around them and suddenly you feel drained and lifeless, but yet they invigorate you. They fill your cup. But also those that love you enough that they'll speak to you in love and encourage you with that gentle pat on the back, and if necessary, that tealic on the ear, just to get your attention and get you refocused on putting first things first.
I love that. And I'm gonna start practicing that, like celebrating little wins. Go ahead, Jesse, sorry.
Just to add on to Marissa's whole notion about rewarding ourselves, a lot of people have the resolution to lose some weight or to get healthier. And food, I've been doing nutrition for about 15 years, and I have come to realize that food is very psychological. A lot of people have bad relationships with food because we don't think about it in a positive way. We think, oh, just because I'm on a diet, I cannot eat this and I cannot eat that. Don't think that way. A lot of people will message me, and I tell all of my customers, hey, if you have any questions about what to eat, message me, call me up, and I'll help you through it. A lot of times I get the question, hey, I'm at a party, what do I eat because I cannot eat cake, or it's my son's birthday, and what do I eat instead of cake or whatever? I'm like, don't worry about it. One slice of cake is not going to make you fat. Just like eating one salad today is not going to make you skinny tomorrow. Again, it's about consistency. So enjoy your time, be realistic, enjoy your time with your family, have that slice of cake, reward yourself for working so hard and eating right Monday through Friday. You have one piece of cake, that's fine. Just continue to be consistent about your decisions on being healthy. And I guess the trap for people that, when it comes to health, the trap again is consistency the other way. If you're eating cake every single day and eating out every single day, then that becomes a problem. But if you're eating right, trying to eat right, and you take your wins and reward yourself with a night out with your family, or you go out to dinner with your wife or whatever, take that and don't worry about it.
So we talked about planning, about like long-term planning, and also like those small benchmarks, planning and celebrating those little wins. How about like slips or like mistakes or not being able to follow through with small benchmarks? Do we plan for those too, or is that kind of like setting ourselves up for failure and knowing that we can kind of give ourselves one or two mistakes down the line? Like, how do you feel about that?
That's a slippery slope because naturally, I'm going to say, give yourself some grace, be patient with yourself, celebrate the victories, but at the same time, don't then therefore become an enabler to your own destruction, right? So, everybody slips up. And when we're talking about implementing new lifestyle changes or becoming healthier or doing something for your spiritual well-being, the consistency has been really the thread of this whole talk. And that is super, super important. And that's why getting somebody on board with you to kind of hold you accountable in a good way, right? That allows you to give yourself some of that grace, but not let yourself let go completely, right? So, trying to balance that is always really hard. And we're only in January, right? We should have this talk again, probably in April, a few months into this. And then, kind of we can reassess where we were from benchmark to then. So yeah, kind of, it goes both ways.
I think too, you just need to be realistic with your lifestyle. Don't go into your resolutions thinking you're going to reach it just like that. If you're going to lose weight, it's going to happen. I mean, you're not, unless you're trying to be a bodybuilder and there's a competition in like 2 months, you don't need to be very strict with yourself. Unless you're an athlete and you're having to train and this is your life and you're getting paid for it. If you're just trying to lose weight and eat healthy, take it in stride. one step at a time. My meal plans here at the Boca Box, I usually recommend people go Monday through Friday, because Saturday and Sunday is meant for family time and eating out with your friends and enjoying life. And if you want to stay consistent with eating, and you know that, hey, I really can't control myself on the weekends, then yeah, let's do a meal plan on the weekend. But the point of at least my business, is try to help people to understand that this is a lifestyle change. You can't expect to be on our program and to get healthy just like that. The weekends are meant for you to look at what you're eating consistently throughout the week and then tailor your life like that. So little by little, you get off of our program and you learn how to eat healthy for yourself, whether it's keto, whether it's paleo, whether it's a plant-based diet. You learn how to do it, and then you take that, just like the scripture says, you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, or you teach him how to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. That's what we want to do, give people the tools that they need so that they can think about their decisions, how it's going to affect them, how it's going to affect their family, think positive about the outcomes of your decisions, and then move forward with that. Whether or not it's a good outcome, you have to learn how to move forward and take the good with the bad.
I really love those thoughts, man. It's taking responsibility, but also not taking yourself overly seriously. We're human, and I think it might be Aristotle or somebody said, to human is error. Not that we should live in error, but we need to be realistic about the goals that we set. I love what Habakkuk, what it says in chapter 2, verse 2, is take the vision, the value of taking your vision and writing it down, because the whole purpose of that is to enable you to run. And if you don't have a target, you'll never know what you're shooting at, or if you hit it. And we allow ourselves to live in that mediocrity. So the value of hitting a target is so that you can evaluate your aim, your trajectory, the amount of effort and focus that you're putting in, so that at whether it's a weekly evaluation, a daily evaluation, a monthly evaluation, you have the ability to sit down and review your plan, evaluate its effectiveness and its attainability. Is this something I can do consistently? Because the outcome objective is to win-win-win. When you teach yourself to win, it feels more awkward to lose or to miss the mark. You're developing that muscle memory, much like Michael Jordan, right? He became so successful in that he always visualized himself hitting the bucket every single time he released the ball. He never focused on the misses. It was only on the successes. And in doing that, we reprioritize. Well, maybe I put too much priority on this, and therefore limited my ability to put real energy and effort on something that really matters to me, that's actually on my goal list, and then re-execute again. If you're looking to just strengthen yourself spiritually this year and you don't know where to stop, a lot of us make the mistake, a good mistake, but the mistake of enrolling for that Bible in a year. And when you miss a day and you miss a week and then you miss a month, the condemnation just rains on you, because, oh my gosh, how would you do that to God? And God's like, dude, to chill out a little bit. Everything's going to work out, but maybe take it in a smaller bite. Maybe key into a online Bible app like YouVersion or something, and log in the Psalms and just listen to the Psalms once a day. And just learn how to worship and be excited and enjoy life again, or Proverbs, and just fill yourself with good supernatural ageless wisdom that again will impact everything. It'll impact yourself. It'll impact your relationships. It'll impact your business. It'll impact the way you engage with people at school. It'll impact the way you connect with community, and the way you evaluate people and the opportunities to really add significance to the world around you, and color therefore there within.
Thank you for sharing. Oh my gosh, I hope that we can have the entire another hour to talk about this, but unfortunately we're down to our last minute. So first I want to thank everybody, Marissa, Jesse, Pastor Brad. Thank you for your wisdom, for your effort and your time that you shared with us today during our Peace Lunch Hour. I'm truly honored to meet all of you and also to converse with you on this topic. It's even inspired me to rethink of earlier we started off the conversation by saying 2020 is just chaos, but after what you've shared, I think 2020 is about growth. We've all evolved, we've all learned something different about ourselves, about our community. We grew somehow one way or another, and we've always been taught to think outside the box, but I think that box is completely gone. We're creating new norms and we're thriving in it. So I wanted to close off this episode by a quick round robin among all of you. So, how in one word would you describe 2021? I'll start with Pastor Brad. Just one word.
I just literally wrote it down, and I would say paradigm shift. We just went through a global paradigm shift.
For sure. Jesse.
2021. Hopeful.
Helpful. That's what we need. How about Marissa?
That was going to be my word, so give me a second. Centered.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Thank you so much. To our wonderful audience, thank you for spending your lunch hour with us at Peace. If you have any other questions or comments that come up in your mind after this episode, you can forward them to staff@peaceguam.org, and we'll be more than happy to share it with our prevention champions here on the chat room. We have some chat. There you go. What Tricia is saying, the centered hopeful paradigm shift for 2021. That's a great unison of everything that was talked about today. Please also share with us your feedback on today's episode and the evaluation survey that will follow once you end this Zoom session on your device. And again, thank you for your time. We hope you'll join us again next month. Watch out on the next episode, on the announcement on our Instagram page or Facebook. Thank you, everyone. Bye.